All right, perfect. So we're gonna start off the recording section with the Hood News segment. So what's going on in the world around us?
There's a hurricane.
There is a hurricane. Tell me about this hurricane. Why do we need to know about that?
It's impacting, like, I saw that it flooded a couple of dorms, and I saw that like, I guess the subway station was flooded. It was just like a lot of people need help right now.
Yeah. And 'tis the season, right? It's hurricane season. So it's not like it's gonna be just one. So why are we never prepared then? Like every time hurricane season comes on, we act like we're all surprised and we don't move people out of the areas and we just always need help. Why is that?
Is it because of the lack of infrastructure out there to really help people?
There's one, right? Infrastructure is really important, especially for the communities of color, or the poorer communities. We don't have the same type of infrastructure. So what happens when our communities get torn down? We don't got nowhere else to go. So we got to go back to the shit that's torn down, right? The ghetto just becomes more ghetto. Anybody been to New Orleans in the last couple of years?
I have. It was fun.
Yeah. What did it look like though?
It was a lot of Black people. It was just so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say Black and welcoming, very cultural things out there. And I've born and raised in California, so it's just I think a different atmosphere.
Yeah, things are definitely different. Did you drive through any of the hoods?
No. What did we say? We stayed on the French Quarter. That's it.
So you stayed where the tourists stay.
Yes.
It was designed for tourists to stay so that you don't see the rest of New Orleans.
Yes.
Yeah. The rest of New Orleans is not so pretty. It looks like every other hood. You ever watch any of the documentaries post-Katrina?
I've seen that. Didn't they wait for help for like a certain while and it still didn't arrive and they were still struggling? And it's like, it was mostly like low income people that just like they were begging for help and nobody came. They ended up like it was really bad.
Right. Well, what happened to all them efforts then? Because didn't the military send a whole bunch of motherfuckers out there to go help post-Katrina? Where'd they go then? What happened?
Weren't they focusing on the looters and like the people
focusing on looters, but they were mostly focusing on the more affluent areas, like the French Quarter, which is a moneymaker because it's the tourism industry, and who can afford that kind of thing? Mostly, not really us, but you keep the flavor around, right? People come there for the flavor. People come there for the exoticism of Blackness that exists in New Orleans, Creole culture type thing. Well, you can't have a French Quarter without the Creole. People are going to ask questions, right? People wanted to be like the Princess and the Frog, right? When you go to New Orleans, you want it to be like the Princess and the Frog. You expect there to be some dude doing magic over here, but he's a little evil. We just going to put him over there. It's just part of the culture, he's there. But for the most part, it's happy Black folk who are working a couple of different jobs and just kind of barely making it. Like our communities here. They're never going to tell you that though, because who wants to tell you that they're barely making it? It's all about an image. So post-Katrina, right, most of the efforts went to the more affluent areas to rebuild those affluent areas, and our communities stayed our communities. Some of those folks just barely got out of anything, if they even have, and now they're re-devastated. They didn't have anywhere else to go in the first place. But the people up here who have all the issues with the wildfires, why are you gonna rebuild your house on the same side of a mountain that keeps sliding down from these fires? I don't understand. It's because you can afford to, right? Getting the view is more important than making it make sense. When you can afford those types of things, it's more important. It's why we just watched Jeff Bezos go into space and that other white guy telling all the little kids about, oh, when I was a little boy, I dreamed about going into space. Bro, we can't afford your dreams. So all of these things are both interconnected and by design. That's why it's important for us to know about this hurricane. One reason. What's another reason that we should know what's going on with this hurricane? Somebody add something.
Something I noticed from watching the news is a lot of people don't have insurance. A lot of people don't have flood insurance, and I think that was really important for me. Well, I didn't realize that. And I feel like a lot of people don't, especially also, yeah, young people, a lot of young people don't think insurance of any kind is important, nor do they utilize the resources, if they have any, to get insurance. That being said, this is not this is just an example, like life insurance. A lot of young people don't have it, don't think they need it, and wait until 30, 40 to get it. Versus like me right now, I'm extremely young. However, I do have life insurance because life insurance can actually be a really great investment down the line. And so just things like I would say flooding insurance, wildfire insurance. I think they have earthquake insurance for those areas. There's a lot of insurance that especially the Black community either don't know about, can't afford, or simply just don't have, because they have to, if you have a choice between paying your rent versus having flood insurance for those who are in, Louisiana, New Orleans, all of that, you're going to choose paying your rent. It makes sense, but it's just unfortunate.
Right. So there's a huge issue with it. It's not so much that we don't care about it or don't think that we need these things. We know that we need them. We just can't afford them. But it's easier to say, I don't need that. That's not going to happen to me, than it is for us to say, you know what? I just can't afford that shit. Right? I mean, who wants to feel poor and look poor to somebody else? If you can't go out, right? If your friends invite you out somewhere, it's easier for you to say, you know what, I'm tired, or I've got this work I need to do, rather than saying, you know what, I just can't fucking afford that shit right now. I can't go out with y'all. Like, we don't do that, right? And so we make excuses a lot of the times about the things that we do need, to make it easier to handle the fact that we can't have access to them, or we don't have access to them. New Orleans is no different, right? We're no different here. Why don't we have more comprehensive flood insurance? We're a coastal state. There's a whole ocean right the fuck there. Like, why we don't have that? You know, when I hear an insurance that I had growing up that y'all definitely don't have here, deer collision. That's collision with a deer is covered, or is an additive in insurance policies on the East Coast.
How many times are you gonna run into a deer?
You would be surprised. You would be surprised. But in areas that have more trees and thus more wildlife, we have more deer, and the deer don't give a fuck. And so they will just run out in front of cars all the time. We have more comprehensive deer insurance than Long Beach has for flooding. Make it make sense.
Professor, I do have a question. That being said, my mom and I were just talking about it last night because we were watching the news about the hurricane. I don't want this to sound rude or judgmental. However, why do people keep if people know those areas are prone to flooding, massive hurricanes, all of that, I just wonder why they don't leave and go to another area. Now, I know some families have been there since the beginning of time. However, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I wonder why they don't band their resources together, work together as a family, and invest in moving into a better area weather-wise, so that doesn't happen.
Sure.
Can I ask a question to follow up her question?
Sure.
If they know, I guess the government, that it's prone to hurricanes, why don't they set up a plan for the people who live there to be safe, provide the resources, all of that? Like, why hasn't that been done yet, seeing the consistent flooding, hurricanes, all of that, instead of having a majority of people move who can't afford the income? Like, why hasn't that been set up for them?
Both of these questions are intricately tied to the lessons that we're going to be talking about today, actually, largely due to race and race relations and status quo maintenance. I mean, think about this. The CARES Act, for example, right? The CARES Act funding was supposed to go to students and the rest of the university to help maintain its functionality during the pandemic, right? Y'all got something, some of you did. It was unclear how that money was actually being distributed. There was a report that came out before the pandemic. There was a report that came out before the pandemic that discussed the CSUs and how they have basically been caught giving more funding to predominantly white schools or schools that have more white students in them, right? Your university system has been doing this. But they don't value Dominguez, right? They don't value people of color. This country does not value people of color, and that is a historic issue that we've been facing. So why are they not doing anything? Why are they not creating protections and all of that? Why would they? When have they ever given us an inclination that they wanted to care about us? Why do people continue to go to these same places? For the people who can, because they can. For the people who have nowhere else to go, because where else are they gonna go? You gonna be homeless in your car somewhere else? If you even have that, I mean, is it gonna start post-flood? Probably not. So a lot of these things are long-term issues that have been designed to function this way and are just kind of unfolding in front of us. But because we don't have that same historical understanding, we weren't taught it, right? White people weren't going to teach us about all the terrible things that they did and said and all of that, right? They're just not. Let me think. What's the best way to put this? Because we don't have the same historical know-how as our richer counterparts, we have less to combat these issues with up front as a community. We can't fight fact with opinion. Yeah, we feel that these things are terrible and we know that these things are terrible because of the ways that they impact us. However, unless that impact is in words that white people will care about, unless it starts to impact those richer communities as well, nothing's going to change. Why is Amazon not paying taxes? Nothing's going to change.
Wait, come again. You said Amazon's not paying taxes? That's wild. Oh
Do
my
you
God.
think the rich pays majority of the taxes?
I'm sorry?
I'm asking her, do you think the rich pays majority of the taxes?
Who?
The rich.
The rich?
Yeah.
No, the poor do.
Exactly.
Or the working class, I'll say.
Exactly.
They pay nothing. Like,
You can Google it too if you want it. A lot of those companies.
It's public information.
It is public information. Nonprofits, public information. Make sure you go look at where this money is going to. Susan G. Komen, for example. I think only about 10% of the donations to Susan G. Komen actually go to cancer research. The CEO is like super rich. Yeah, they're getting rich off of cancer people. Come on. They don't give a shit about us. Whew, y'all gonna make me mad. This is great. I love this. All right, so let's go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're about to move on. I was like, can I bring up another event topic, but you're gonna move on.
Let's see what it is. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna bring up the abortion ban in Texas that is now being implemented, and that enrages me. It makes me so angry.
Why is that?
Because it's, I'll simply say, because I will go on a tangent. I believe in pro-choice. I'm a very religious person, extremely religious. That being said, I still believe in pro-choice. And a lot of the individuals who are making these choices are men. They don't have to go through labor. They don't have to bear a child for 9 months. They don't have to do none of that. And so the fact is, a lot of the decisions that are being made are by men. And then on top of that,
Wait, What's different about that though?
Meaning was different.
Don't they make all the other decisions too?
Yes, but this is a woman's choice. This is a woman's body. A man cannot tell me what goes in or out my body. No.
You were property until the 1900s.
That's a shame.
And we still are. That just shows that law. That just shows that we still are.
Social security numbers, everybody here is property.
And it angers me
Social
because
security cards, you should read that. Now everybody's gonna go read their social security cards like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, you should read those things.
and it angers me because men and wealthy women are making these decisions. And it's like, what about the working class mom, the working class single mom, or the mother who makes less than that? What about them? And
They
it's
only want you to repopulate. That's it. They're not interested in your children. They only want you to repopulate the working class. So anything beyond that, not their problem. They don't care. New age enslavement. That's how it works. That's how it has evolved.
yeah, and I don't mind, me personally, I don't mind, certain laws about, like, it's a slippery slope. I don't mind certain laws, I guess, regulating abortions. Like if someone's just having unprotected sex and they keep running to have an abortion, okay, maybe we can have a conversation. However, it's just, you can't tell a woman what to do or not to do with their body. She's a grown woman. She's her own person. And it's just I feel like you can't and you shouldn't.
So you actually just juxtaposed your own statement, right? Because you gave an ultimatum for, well, if they're just having unprotected sex, then whatever. Maybe we should, do some sort of regulation. However, women's body, women's choices, right? Those two ideas don't work together. And that
I agree.
is how we can't get on the same page consistently in policy too. We're inconsistent with our own language and we give a lot of loopholes just off of that, right? Trying to appease the other side, like, well, okay, well, I can kind of see your point here. No, I don't see your fucking point because it's not my business what you're doing with your body. Just like it's not your business what I do with mine. You know what I'm saying?
And I feel like, sorry, I just feel like it's the overall language. For example, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a woman cannot get an abortion after 6 weeks. Yeah. 6 weeks of a woman being pregnant is 2 weeks late for her period. That being said, I can't speak for every girl, but it's like being 2 weeks late, that's not like crazy.
You just figured it out.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes, especially for women who have irregular periods, that's not unnormal for them. You can't regulate someone's body and women's body. Each woman's body is completely different. They obviously do different things, work different ways, and have different flows, times, all of that. So it's unfair.
Every single body is different, though. Every single body is different. Every single body is different, right? But difference does not matter. So think about all the times in the last couple of years that you've heard the words diversity and inclusion. When have they actually been real and not buzzwords? That's all it is buzzwords to keep you satisfied, right? So even the idea of 6 weeks, well, that's supposed to give you some sort of a comfort, like, well, we understand this is a hard decision, so we're gonna give you a little bit of time to think about it. Not understanding how biology actually works to the point of understanding that you are pregnant or like realizing it or anything like that, right? They give no fucks because they don't know enough to care, right? Think about this, sex ed in high schools. How comprehensive is that?
I wasn't taught sex ed in high school, so that says a lot. Like, yeah, I wasn't taught it.
They don't have sex ed.
Sex ed, or we were given really shitty sex ed, and now all of a sudden we're all supposed to be experts on other people's bodies. That's laughable, right? But people who are in power and control are going to maintain that power and control however they see fit. It's easy to control people who allow themselves to be controlled. And as a people, at this point, we do that every time we don't say something about it. So keep talking about these things that upset you. You should be upset that they're saying you have to figure this shit out in the first 6 weeks. That shit is crazy. It's very much so giving Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that way. It's very much so giving that. I just saw some things come up in the chat. Did you ever need it? Did whoever need what? Oh, sex ed? Everybody needs sex ed. Sex ed is really important. How do we talk about sex and all of the things that come with sex, including pregnancy, teen pregnancy is one of the primary reasons that our people drop out of schools, child care costs, all of these other things, right? Even enjoyment, right? Sex is something that is also to be enjoyed. How do we talk about that if we're so uncomfortable with it because we were told not to talk about it, except for maybe this little bit of portion of school where you might learn a little bit of sex ed if we're going to teach it to you at all, because, you know, we don't want you to do those things. And even they would, you know, they would include abstinence in sex ed for a long time, like as the go-to. They're like, we just don't want you to do it at all. And you're like, that's not human. That's not even human. Like, that's why. Now, of course, there are people in the world who do not engage in sex in the same way. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But without these comprehensive discussions and without normalizing us being able to have these discussions, not making it fucking weird, those men are going to keep doing what they're doing in those seats. A couple of years ago, lawmakers in New York, male, of course, dealing with the prison systems, decided that they were denying a motion to include feminine hygiene products, right? Period products for people who are incarcerated, specifically female-bodied people who are incarcerated. Their logic, it's not our fault that these women can't hold their bladders.
Outrageous. Whew.
You can Google it if you want. I have no reason to lie. That shit is crazy. So we need sex ed. Everybody needs sex ed. See, and all these, like the fact that they're cutting even the tiny sex ed programs out of schools is troublesome. Half of my school didn't even know we had. All right. Okay, we're gonna go into some breakage. We gotta break some shit down. So today what we're gonna talk about is race, gender, and we're gonna get a little bit into hip hop because so I want you to understand how deep these concepts actually are, right? So what I'm not doing is fully defining them for you. We're just talking about them. We're gonna break these concepts down as far as we can. So please feel free to question everything, okay? And then to understand why those things are so important for us to lay out as a foundation before we go into hip hop, okay? So I'm going to share my screen. Let me share the sound too. Okay, so everybody can see this, right? Call and response, everybody can see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Keep in mind from here on out, I'm not really gonna be looking at the chat. So if somebody writes something in the chat, can somebody else please pause me to read it?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna start with this term intersectionality. Intersectionality is essentially what we do as a department. It's what we need to be doing as students, as lifelong learners. And it's essentially understanding that literally everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected, right? So theories that you learn in other classes, they're absolutely usable here, right? Theories you learn here, you can take that to your other classes too. That's how intersectionality works, right? We can't dismiss the ideas of race and gender as individual because they don't function that way, right? You as a person cannot remove your race from your gender. You just can't. Because as a person, it's all the things that make you you, right? What we do try to do socially is we try to create a hierarchy of things, right? Well, this aspect of me is more important than, or needs more attention than. And sometimes, sure, right? If you're really dirty, for example, right? The thing that you need is a shower. Really simple concept, right? Well, what happens if you are really dealing with a lot of racism? You feel that you need to deal with race, right? And so us as a society, we're kind of in that phase where we feel like we have to deal with race and race only. But holistically, that doesn't work because of intersectionality. Each person is going to be individual. So you dealing with race and me dealing with the race and the next person dealing with the race is never going to look the same. So for us all to say, well, we all need to deal with just race first, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna happen. That's why it hasn't. So here's the basic definition of intersectionality from Oxford. Okay. The interconnected nature of social categorization, such as race, class, and gender, as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. Okay. Overlapping and interdependent systems. So this is what I was talking about in the chat yesterday. This is why my stance is the way that it is. Does that make more sense now?
Yeah.
Makes a little bit, okay. So we're actually gonna start off with a little bit of intersectionality because I want you to see how important this actually is and how easy it is to do this. Anybody ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
What is this?
I kind of forgot, I'm not gonna lie.
Just like what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Like
I learned it in psychology. It's like I believe it's what it's believed that the human body needs. I don't fully remember it, but I think that's kind of the concept.
Right, it's the layers of things that we need for our human existence to be fulfilled or to feel like our human existence is fulfilled, right? But because it's layers, right? For anybody who likes Shrek, right? It's like an onion, it's got layers, right? Y'all remember that? Not too old, see? Before you can level up, that first layer needs to be secure, right? So let's look at this bottom layer here. What's on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That's the platform. That's the basics of the basics of the basics. What's on there?
Breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, and excretion.
What's homeostasis? Who got a dictionary?
The body's natural process of maintaining itself.
Fine, don't use your dictionary.
I can grab it if you want.
No, I was gonna give you extra credit. It's too late.
Man, you really messed it up, bro.
Oh man, that's unfortunate.
What's excretion? No dictionary this time, sorry. Can't be prepared for these kind of things.
Isn't
What's
it
excretion?
like defecation, right?
Using the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So basic things that we all need to survive. So you see sex is down here too. Why don't we have comprehensive sex ed if it's literally at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Why don't we have regular access to clean food, to clean water, to healthier foods? Some of us don't even have a whole lot of oxygen access because they keep cutting the fucking trees down. Why are we doing this? It's the bottom of the things that we need. That's what we need to even feel secure before we can move up to what's next?
Safety.
So poor communities who are food insecure, poor Flint that's been struggling with their water supply and still doesn't trust the water supply, which, I mean, why would they, right? Non-comprehensive sex ed that causes a whole lot of issues within our communities that then get fed by the systems that tell us to continue to have kids so that we can get more money from them and all of that, right? Right, so on and so this is designed then, right? The bottom is designed in a way to keep us at the bottom. The social design bottom is there to keep us needy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if one is missing, we won't be able to get to the top. There's just no way we're gonna get there.
You can't move on. You want to tell me that you're going to be able to be sleep deprived and go ahead and have some body security, be able to keep your job well? No, you're not. You're going to be sitting in class hungry and be able to pay attention to get your resources? No, you're not. Right?
Professor.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much what I'm hearing is it's simply a cycle to keep those who are at the bottom of the triangle at the bottom. So what is a solution, or what is a move, or what is something we can do next to get everyone on the same playing field?
Well, we can't do that yet because we're still at the bottom. So let's move up to safety. What do we need for safety?
Security of body.
Layers. You have to take it piece by piece. We can't jump to the top and say, well, what's the solution? We have to take it piece by piece. It's built that way.
It's security of body, employment, resources, morality, family, health, and property. We don't even own property.
Oh, we don't have property. Well, how are we supposed to get to safety? How are we supposed to get through safety? So you mean to tell me that we don't got shit, but we supposed to be functional in society? That's cute.
Yeah. That being said, when it says property, do you mean owning a home or renting and having shelter? I just want to make it clear.
Oh, I mean everything from houses to slaves.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because let's go to this morality word. Who's deciding what is moral and what is not?
The government.
Not necessarily.
Society?
Not necessarily.
People in power?
The elites.
White people.
The elites.
Rich white people.
The elites.
The elite of the elite.
The elites. We're specifically going to refer to them as the elites because they're not all white-skinned people, right? They're not all people from Europe or of European descent. They're largely people of European descent, right? And they've made sure to keep it that way. But like I was saying before, there's this idea of a facade of opportunity that is essentially they allow a couple of us to get to the top some sort of way. It may not be perfect, but it's going to look the part as well as they need to make us feel like it's possible, right? That it's not beyond our reach. When really, when you look at how it's broken down, just this hierarchy of needs, we haven't even gotten to race yet. Just this. It ain't built for you. So morality, is enslavement moral?
No.
It's not? Then why was it sanctioned by the Pope?
Because the Pope is corrupt.
You gonna tell the Roman Catholic Church that?
Yeah, I don't think that would end very well for me.
I don't think that would end very well for you, no.
Wasn't it structured to their morality? Like it was moral to them because they made up the rules themselves.
So morality is not fixed. Morality is not fixed, yet we treat it often like it is. Because we're told that this is moral and this is not, right? How many people over your lifetime heard growing up that gay people were all going to hell because it's not moral?
Yeah,
I still hear it.
I hear it.
People tell me all the time. I'm like, that's nice. It sounds like a party. It sounds more fashionable. What do people want us to say, right? But the idea itself of morality is not fixed. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I have a very, like, I guess, religious dad. And he's like, oh, like, gay people are going to hell. And like, where did you find that in the Bible? You can't pick and choose what to live from the Bible. And I was like, I'm going to go to hell because they won't allow you to pierce your ears. You're going to hell because they won't allow you to drink, have a child at an early age out of wedlock. And so I'll pick what I want to use from the Bible. And he gets mad. And I'm just like, you can't pick and choose to degrade other people. If you're going to follow the Bible, follow the whole thing. Don't just pick and choose.
Which one? Which Bible? Which Bible are we supposed to follow? There's 50 versions in English alone, more than 50 in English alone. Which one are we supposed to follow?
I don't know.
Does that also include the books that were removed or the books that were vetoed?
Oh my gosh, follow whatever Bible you want to follow.
Well, how is it moral then? How are we supposed to have a universal moral code if we don't even know which Bible to read?
There's different Bibles with different meanings, bro. Even the KKK have like their specialized Bible.
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
There's different like interpretations and like different versions. Even the KKK have their own specialized Bibles.
Right. There's a lot of Bibles out there. There were Bibles that were specifically made for slaves to keep them thinking that this was the thing we were supposed to do. Ain't nobody using the Bible as their moral code in the future. You can't. the Bible is like a long game of telephone. It's like people just kind of whispering in somebody else's ear some sort of a message, and then it gets to you and it's different. Remember that game? Growing up as a kid, if anybody played that game?
Yeah.
Right. Or I saw this meme the other day about they was gonna use the crate challenge in church now, right? The pastor gonna be up there talking about, I seen people walking on crates, but I know somebody who walked on water, right?
Oh my gosh.
It says in the chat, a lot of theologians even say that Deuteronomy verse about man laying with the man was a skewed translation.
Yes. Yes, that's what I've heard too. There are books of the Bible that are not printed in the Bible. Anybody ever read the Gospel according to Mary Magdalene?
I haven't.
Y'all should read that. Yeah, Mary Magdalene says that she was Jesus' wife, the prostitute, just in case y'all forgot.
Wait, huh?
Mary Magdalene, the prostitute,
Uh-huh.
was by Jesus' feet with his mother, which otherwise, why would that make any sense? Well, according to her, they were married.
Yikes.
I'm sure you can imagine why the Roman Catholic Church would decide that's not exactly something we want to go ahead and put in here. So they vetoed it. There's several books of the Bible like that. Let's move up to love and belonging. So we can't get the safety, right? Ain't nobody got employment like that over here. And the employment that we do have doesn't really do shit, right? No security of the body. They already making plans. They doing a handmaid's tale down in Texas. We just talked about that, right? Resources, family. I mean, it's a struggle. We know this. We can talk about that all day. Let's move up to love and belonging. So notice that love and belonging comes after all those basic needs, right? So fulfill yourself first, right? Take care of yourself first. That self-care at the bottom, yes. The safety is also something that you have to do for yourself, right? Then you invite other people in. So friendship, family, sexual intimacy. This is why our relationships are all fucked up.
Girl, preach.
This is why. We jump to friendship and family and sexual intimacy to try to get some of these things, right? We try to get some of these things and fill voids, but that doesn't make us whole people, right? The folks who are already at the top, they're whole people, or at least they give the impression or the image of being whole people. They'll never let you know that they're not, right? But we do. We let people know that we're imperfect because we are at the end of the day. We're human. Humans are imperfect. There's nothing wrong with being imperfect. There is something wrong with being imperfect when we're pretending to be perfect instead. So for our families and friendships, all of that, right? What does that look like in our communities? How does that show up?
Can you give a more specific question?
Sure. Since we use friendship and family and sexual intimacy, right? Not to be confused with sex, because sex also includes masturbation. We use friendship, family, and sexual intimacy to fill gaps in the safety and psychological sections. So what does that actually look like? How does that show up in our relationships, in our families, our home lives? What does that look like for us?
They might not be the healthiest.
They're not the healthiest, but what does that mean? What does it mean for it to not be healthy? How does it show up?
A lot of broken families, I guess.
A lot of broken families.
Absent fathers, absent mothers, or like they live in the same household, but they're not emotionally present, or I guess, and then that just makes another problem for the child.
So we're introducing stereotypes of the family, right? The absentee father, right? That becomes a social expectation at that point because it's widespread information that we are filling these gaps with this here because we all trying to jump to the top. We want to jump to the solution. We think this is a solution. It never is.
And I think overall, not just absent parents, because you can have all your parents in the house and they just be dysfunctional. So I think just, I I think a family that doesn't have boundaries, probably.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have, in my opinion, I feel like the Black community has a lack of boundaries in families.
Also,
We
lack of
have a lot of
understanding
boundaries.
of boundaries.
Say again?
The lack of understanding what boundaries are.
Yes, right? Well, why is that? We don't understand boundaries because we didn't really make them down here. That's what, oh shit. Keep clicking stuff. That's what all of this is. This is boundary setting. This is saying these are the things that I need and that are important for me to survive. I can't survive without these things, right? But I also need to fill this void. So instead of holding firm to my own boundaries, I'm going to go find it somewhere else.
And I think the lack of boundaries stems back to slavery.
Yes.
So just like, I'll just give a general example, like of a Black family, and kids can't talk back to their parents. And what I mean by talk back is even express themselves.
Right.
And I think that that's actually extremely dysfunctional to be raised for 18 plus years and not being able to express yourself to your parents. And then you're thrown into the adult world and you have to express yourself.
Right. Right.
Can I point something out real quick? Can you stop screaming? I'm trying to talk. Bro, it's a boss thing about the room. Oh my God, I'll do it later. One thing I noticed is that, like, in a lot of Black families, the physiological part, they think that that's like all you need. If you notice, they'll be like, well, you have food and water, so like I don't need to be there for you as a family. And it's so weird because they like kind of use it as like a bargaining chip. Like, well, I'm a parent, and I mean, I may not like I love you, but at least you're not homeless. It's like it's really weird. I don't know why they do that, but yeah.
Yes, right. And it's because we're struggling to fill those basic needs. So us as parents is different from them as parents. Us as parents is, listen, if I can get these basics in, I did something. I did something. So when our kids, we driving past McDonald's and they like, oh, can we stop? And mom says, you got McDonald's money? It's funny. We take it as a running joke for a long time. But what's really happening there? What's really happening there is mom knows that she can't do all of this and we're struggling to do all of this, right? We've got this social break in our families and in our relationships, right? Because we don't have all these boundaries set up for ourselves. We just don't have access to a lot of them all of the time. We don't have consistent access to them. So for us, it turns into a joke. It turns into a way to cope with those things rather than to deal with them, to eradicate these issues or to alleviate some of these issues, especially as a community, right? I mean, how many people have heard that before? You got XYZ money?
Oh, plenty of times.
Plenty of times, right? Plenty of times.
I've seen it in a bunch of memes.
All the time, right? Especially as adults. Like, we cannot wait. I can't wait for the day my mom call me and ask me for something. Go ahead, ask me. I'm gonna probably give it to her, but either way, that's not the point. I'm gonna say it first.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do my mom too bad, but you know, I might here and there.
Yeah, I'll be nice to her after the first like minute or so. I gotta get her back, right? It's been a long time. Okay, so how do we get jacked up with sexual intimacy then? How does that show up for us?
My opinion, I think sex is not sexual intimacy. There's a difference.
Yes.
The actual act of sex is not sexual intimacy. Matter of fact, sex doesn't even need to be sexual intimacy.
Correct.
And so I think that's where it gets jumbled up. Just because you're having sex, boo kitty, does not mean it's intimacy.
Correct, right? We conflate those ideas very often. Go ahead. I heard somebody else start talking. I think it was you, Cameron.
I was saying that's facts. Like, people be mixing up the two, and it's just like, just because you had sex, but that doesn't mean like you were intimate with her. Right? That's just like, like that's like a surface level take. So.
Right. But think about this. A lot of the depictions of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, doesn't actually include sex at the bottom. Even though like it's in the writing, when people recreate this, they actually leave sex out of this bottom one. for that same type of reason, right? It gets conflated. They're like, well, I don't need sex down here and sexual intimacy up here. Like, no, you do, because those are two very different things, right? They fulfill very different needs. And so if we're removing sex as a basic need and only going to put it in the love and belonging, right? Well, then it becomes intricate to that existence. And so it keeps us in places longer than we should be, right? How many of y'all have been in or have seen very toxic relationships where you're like, I don't understand why they're together, why they're still doing this. And the first thing they say is, but the sex.
Too many times, it's sad.
This is why. This is how that works, right? So for us, we have to make sure that we are separating those two ideas out. That's going to become really important for us later on in the semester. When we really get into breaking down some of the lyricism. Okay, so let's move up to esteem. So psychological, we ain't got that shit. Safety, we ain't got that shit. Love and belonging, it's a struggle. What about esteem?
No. And my perspective is a lot of Black girls and Black women especially do not have self-esteem in society, because women who I feel like women who are born with Black features or have dark skin are just not preferred, especially in the media. It's more women who are fair skin, lighter skin, and women who bought Black features. They are prioritized.
Yes, the buying of Black features, absolutely, right? And so for us, if these are things that we're supposed to have, that we're supposed to be able to build in ourselves, right? Which really, I personally think that esteem should come before love and belonging. I personally think that, because this is more boundaries. This is more boundaries. So we're setting boundaries, right? And then we're maintaining those boundaries in different ways. But why are we putting ourselves second?
I mean, yeah, that makes sense, because why is the love of others put before the love that we have for ourselves?
Who does that help? Who does it hurt?
Us, and it helps the elites.
See those questions that come out of that critical thinking cheat sheet? That's how that works. So when you're
But that actually makes sense though. That makes sense with the way that this is like, use America as an example. Everything is all about profit. You need to be able to contribute to the world before you're worth anything. So of course they're gonna be like, yeah, make sure you're helping your family, or make sure you're being beneficial to your friends before you care about yourself. Which is also why we skip over safety and safety. I'm gonna use safety only because of health and property. Americans are overworked. Like, we be working a lot of hours for like minimum wage. Like, we don't care about no health. We're just worried about like how we can contribute so we can still be relevant. You know, like even poor people, even though we be putting in all the work at the bottom, we still ain't that relevant. So it's like a never-ending cycle.
Right. Yeah. We're all part of this system where we're supposed to be productive contributors to society, right? But productive contribution to society doesn't even have anything to do with us, right? This is look good for the rest of us, because we're putting us really before you. We need you to be secure, but then make sure that you center and focus on us, right? Center and focus on everybody else instead of you, right? Because ultimately capitalism only cares about itself, right? So this friendship, family, sexual intimacy, that ain't even got shit to do with you. That's not for you, right? These should be part of self-actualization, right? These should be part of establishing self-actualization here instead. So this is one of the reasons that self-care has become such a cash cow in the last couple of years, right? It's become a buzzword. People are like, oh yes, self-care. And they're like, face masks. And that's great. I love face masks. Bottomless mimosas. That's cool. I don't drink. It's all basic shit, right? It doesn't get any deeper than that. How can it not get any deeper than that, though, if it's not even at the bottom of the list? It has to get deeper than that, because this is basic. That means this should have some more thought to it than that. So you mean to tell me the same thing you're supposed to be doing down here is also the same thing that you're supposed to be doing here? At least that's what they're selling us. right? The self-care trends, that's what's being sold. So when I said self-care, right, y'all didn't even think behind, like deeper than.
Yeah, like shouldn't self-care be like deep, like work on yourself, like not like your physical of like what's in like how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're putting out, like the inside.
I feel like also it should be therapy. A lot of Black folks, there's a stigma about going to therapy and getting help and talking about family issues and just issues in general. So, for example, buying a book, reading it for self-care, like reading how to manage your money, reading how to manage your thoughts, reading how to manage tough times in life, going to therapy, just things like that that aren't addressed.
Absolutely, right? We have a lot of stigma about what it means to take care of ourselves too. And so there are certain aspects of self-care that we're not going to do. How do we build self-esteem if we don't deal with our traumas? We can't. It's not possible. We can't do that. It's all going to be fake all the time. You're not going to be able to hold on to it and sustain it because something is going to trigger that trauma at some point, and there goes all the self-esteem. I've been in therapy for almost a year now with my current therapist. I would talk about it with anybody, anytime, because that is very important. We have to break that stigma down. So the more of us who are talking about the things that we're doing to take care of ourselves, the more normal it's going to become too, right?
And then
I go to therapy. I'm on medication. I take medication. I take Prozac and propranolol. The Prozac is for depression management, and the propranolol is for anxiety management. And both of those things are normal, right? Both of those things are necessary. Outside of that, right, I also do yoga. I do a lot of meditation. I keep a lot of lo-fi music on, right? I identify the things that I need to make sure that I'm not going to others to fill those gaps anymore, right? But that's what all of this is going to do when we start doing actual self-care. And self-care has to be holistic. Self-care has to be holistic. It's more than just putting on a fucking face mask. It really is. Do your shadow work. So respect of others and respect by others. Somebody please tell me where this is at in the United States of America.
Where? Nowhere.
We don't know her.
We don't know her. Who is this? You can't sit with us. That's the.
We cannot see.
All right. Oh, we're colorblind. I'm gonna come to that turn later on in the semester. Right. We put our blinders on. How many people walk past homeless people and don't say anything? You pretend you didn't see them. Where's she at? Where is this? Where is this respect? We were singing about it, right? Aretha gave us the box. We were singing about it. What happened? Where's that? Where is she? But we supposed to have a scene. We supposed to be up here doing the things. That's cute. Not possible. Let's go up to self-actualization. Somebody help me. I'm tired. Somebody help me out here. Talk to me about self-actualization.
Morality, creativity, I don't know how to say that. Problem solving, lack of prejudice, and acceptance of facts.
Spontaneity.
Oh, spontaneity. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. What is spontaneity? I'll let y'all get a dictionary. Who's got it first? I want to see it, by the way. No, somebody turn their camera off so they can go run and find it. That's funny. Come here. Jen. Hold on. Hey. Move. Doing my job. Thanks. You like food, right? I need to work. Spontaneity. What is that? Who is she?
In my dictionary, in my dictionary, it doesn't show up as its own word. It just shows up under synonym under spontaneous.
That's fine. What is that?
Okay, that is done or produced freely or naturally and acting or taking place without external force or cause.
So living, so just being out here in the world existing, not having to have a 9 to fucking 5, not clock in, clock out. That's not what life is. That's not what self-actualization is. We supposed to be spontaneous out here in these streets? That's what they're saying?
I think that's what they're saying.
Yes, for me, what I think about that is like the Black community, we're always so quick to just get a job, to take care of family, take care of responsibility.
Yeah.
And that being said, we never, or what I see is people never really strive for more. So a better job that pays better so you can have that time and quality of life. It's always hitting the clock.
Right. Acceptance of facts. This is the fake news era. I don't think we got to go too much into that. Y'all see where this is headed. Problem solving. Now you see why we couldn't skip ahead to how to solve these problems. It's built into the plan. Problem solving is built into the plan. But you can't get there. You can't reach problem solving. It's not for you. You can't sit here. You ain't got no space at this table. That's how we end up in the same situations that we've been in, especially politically. This is why we're not in the rooms that we need to be in. This is why we're not at the tables we need to be sitting at when these decisions are being made. It's literally part of the design. Does this make sense now? I mean, it doesn't, but y'all get the point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So for those of you who are of Central and South American descent, I'm going to start here because it's the majority of you, right? It's the majority of students at Dominguez. And this is really important to understand. Race is not exclusive to the United States. This is one of the reasons that it is not a real thing. It's something that we cannot rely on. It is literally a social creation. Here is a great example of that. This is the Casta system. So this is 16 shades of what it looks like in largely South America during enslavement, after Spain colonized. Spain colonized the majority of South America. There's one place that's colonized by France, and then there's a couple of little other colonies as well. But for the most part, it was Spain, right? Which is why everybody speaks Spanish. Colonization. So the closest that you could be to pure Spanish blood, which is not in the Casta system because that's like godly at this point, right? Why would they include themselves in this system here? They're not part of this, right? Is a Spanish man. I can't make it any bigger. A Spanish man, right? And an India woman, right? So somebody who is native to the region, right? Who was selected by the Spanish man, right? You have to be special in order to be selected by the Spanish man. So we're gonna put you up here, right? Look at the clothes. They've got shoes on, hair laid. See what's going on here? We move down the chain a little bit, right? As we move down the chain, you can see something immediately shift here. Look at the skin tone. So this is still, right? The India is still not white, right? Not white. Spanish is white here. This is not. This is also not white. So next though is the Spanish woman and the mestizo. What's the difference between a mestizo and an India?
Don't mestizo people have Spanish in them and Indian?
Yes. So let's go. That's right. They didn't even include, oh, yes, they did right here. So see right here? So this is the child, right? The name that's on the bottom is the child. That's what that's called. So that is going to move up here, right? That's the next in line in this social category with a Spanish woman. And it's going to go down and so forth, right? As we start moving down the social hierarchy, we start to see less shoes. We start to see more poverty. We start to see more work, more labor, right? Come down here, entertainment, right? We gotta entertain the people at the top. They're not doing all of that. They ain't even holding shit. They like, listen, y'all do that, not me, okay? Us down here though, be happy about it. Look at the smile. Look at that smile on there. Oh my gosh, he's so happy. Little indentured servant probably. Let's come down here though. This is actually one of my favorite ones down here. So this is No te entiendo is the name of this child here. What does that mean?
Doesn't that mean like you don't understand
Yes.
or
I mean, I don't even know
oh,
what
I
the
don't
fuck you
understand
are.
you.
That's what that is. The name, the racial name of this child here is, I don't even know what the fuck you are at this point. See that? Okay. So this is 16 shades of blackness in just Central and South America, largely in South America during enslavement, which persists today. A lot of these ideas still persist, right? These are not things that have just been simply eradicated. So let's look at the colonial class system. The colonial class system is very intricately tied to race, as we just looked at here, right? You can visually see the differences, the shoes, the clothes, who's working, who's not working, right? Class and race are intricately tied together. So if you look over here, right, the Peninsular Spanish ancestry, again, the Spanish people are at the top, they're the godlike, so they get self-actualization. They don't even got to get the bottom. They don't need all of this because they've already got it, right? That's why they're in the position to colonize in the first place. Then we've got the Creole, Spanish, and Black mixture, right? These are the acceptable Negroes. Bottom line, that's what it is, right? These are the people that we said, well, we need a buffer. So we're gonna let you in because at least you know, aren't trying to fight too much against us. And listen, it's not us you have to be worried about. It's all of these people down here. They want what you have because you're poor. I mean, because they're poor and they're needy. They're the have-nots, right? They're the ones you have to look out for. That's what race wars is. That's something that still perpetuates today. That's why we cannot get it together as a people of color community. So moving down, right? More mixtures. Ah, shit. Moving down, you get more mixtures, right? And then down here at the bottom, who is down here?
Black people.
Bottom. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. This is the 2-minute slave trade. I'm gonna have you watch this real quick. I'm actually gonna turn my mute. Just quickly for context though, each dot that you're looking at is a boat. The bigger the dot, the bigger the boat, which means more human cargo. So down here, this is the timeline for people who are being taken from Africa and brought into the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, so now we've gotten about halfway through it. First, tell me what you see here. What's going on here?
Short-term white supremacy.
Other than that, get a little more basic.
There's so many ships going towards Cuba and Brazil, I think, and more towards America the more it gets into the 1700s.
But still nowhere near as much, right? Why is that? Because we're just not a major port. These are the major ports down here, right? This is the major ports. Brazil is a huge, there's still active plantations in Brazil, okay? Like some of y'all people is still on the plantations, okay? It wasn't coming to the US in the same way, yet it's discussed in the US as though we are the primary still. Like, remember that oppression Olympics I was saying? We still want to feel like we're like the top. And we're not. What else is going on here? What does this make you feel? What does this make you think?
This, I guess, this is making me realize that Black people truly did invent everything, because they're going into all these places that have like culture that started from these enslaved people going here.
You see all the different regions that people are being taken from, right? Yeah. Look at all these regions. You're not going to tell me we're not interconnected. And then you want us to have a race category? Houseway. What else?
This also makes me think of just pretty much our culture, the Black community, all the cultures and traditions that we have today and how mixed they are, but they seem normal to us. I wonder what the pure original, well, not pure, but original tradition and culture was like before slavery, if slavery hadn't happened.
There wouldn't be a singular one, because human nature wouldn't allow there to be one. Everybody is different. Everybody has always been different. So this is a good point to bring up here, right? All migration of people from Africa was not forced migration either. There are natural currents in the ocean as well, right? Don't forget that. People have always been people. Look at this. This is connected here. You mean to tell me that nobody traveled? That's a lie. Nobody traveled? That's a lie. People have always been sharing. People have always been experiencing. People have always been moving around. So even the idea that this can perpetuate that, oh, well, we were all slaves, we were all taken, that's not even true. That's not even true. A lot of us were, though. A lot of us have ties to this. So of course our music and our culture and everything else would too, right? It just makes sense. Any other questions so far?
Can I just say it started off with like small dots, and then it just became like bigger cargo and then thicker dots. That's how, and then it was just back and forth, and like more deployment.
Yes, right. As time went on, guess what is also going on? Technology is advancing still, which means that the boats are getting bigger and able to carry more. They're able to do more, right? I didn't put it on here, but let's go look at that real quick. Right, this is essentially what the inside of those boats look like. Layers of people, all shoved and pushed together. Y'all see this? So it's not like you got 10 people on them boats. So the bigger the boat, the more human cargo. This is all property too. Of property. So we can't get past here because we're not even allowed to. We're not even human. We're just property. Let's go to the Census Bureau. We're gonna switch over to race now. Oh, this
Professor?
is not the one I wanted. Go ahead.
Do you mind inserting all the links that you're using so I can look at them?
I'm gonna do that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Census Bureau. Race. There we go. These are the race categories as per the US Census. notice that only 2 of them include colors. This is why we cannot discuss race as being about skin tones. Legally, it's not. They told us this. We just didn't read it. Look at this white over here. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North what? What's that?
North Africa. They were never original people of North Africa. They just put them.
Oh, so we categorizing people of North African descent as white here is what we're saying. So we're skewing the numbers already, is what we're saying. Why North Africa and the Middle East specifically? The Middle East is Asia, first of all. Like, the majority of the Middle East is Asia. So why white people want the Middle East and North Africa? I mean, they don't really like the Middle East. They think everybody's a terrorist.
Is it to skew population statistics?
That's one reason. Jesus. This helps perpetuate the idea that Jesus is white. You're welcome. North Africa. Why North Africa?
Wait, did they choose North Africa because of their resources and stuff, to say that white people got it first or whatever, or no?
Close.
Is it because of the architectural achievements by like people like the Egyptians, or like also like the Axiom Empire, so that way they could claim those and say that they built like the pyramids and like all those, I forget what they're called, but like the towers that were built in like Ethiopia and Eritrea.
So really what we're saying here is African people couldn't have possibly made them damn pyramids. That has to be white people. So we just gonna claim that. Y'all even seen this before? Have y'all ever seen these definitions before?
Just on job applications.
Just on job applications, right? But they usually don't really go in it like this. If they did, you would read it. You would see it at some point, right? They usually just like have a little box that says select one and they stop there. Right? And
I've never seen like true definitions.
These are the true definitions as per the US Census Bureau. Now, notice what's not here. Hispanic, Latino. It's not a race. Legally, you cannot be mixed Spanish, Latino, Hispanic, and Black. I'm saying that one specifically because I hear people in the classroom say it all the time. Well, I'm half Hispanic and I'm half Black. No, you're not. Not legally, you're not. Tell the US Census Bureau that. Majority of people who identify as Hispanic or Latino select white as their race category. Why is that?
That's the only option we have.
Pretty much the only option is there because you've been taught to think about it in terms of skin tone. You haven't been taught to think about it in terms of the ancestry, in terms of the transatlantic slave trade in particular, or the CASA system, right? Because it pads the numbers. But when it's convenient, they will separate it out and make it sound like it's a race. I'm gonna bring that back up. Just so that y'all know too, I will be going a little bit after 2 o'clock because I got here late. So probably like 2:15-ish is when we'll end. If you have to go, that's fine. Again, everything will be available for you. So all these other little categories here, these aren't even consistent. You know how many times these categories have changed since we started doing a census? So many times. Like Black used to be Black, and then it used to be Black or Negro, right? It used to be Black or Negro, and then it used to be mulatto. Mulatto used to be a race category. Mulatto used to be a race category in the US. So these aren't even fixed. So they want to tell you to just go off of how somebody looks? How? How sway? They don't even do that. Let me come down here to what is race according to the US Census Bureau. The data on race were derived from answers to the questions on race that was asked of individuals in the United States. Who was asked first and all? I wasn't asked. The Census Bureau collects racial data in accordance with guidelines provided by OMB, and these data are, oh my God, they can't write either. This data is based on self-identification. They can't even write in their own language. The racial categories included in the census questionnaire generally reflect a social definition of race recognized in this country, and not an attempt to define race biologically, anthropologically, or genetically. So why are we stuck on skin tones? They're not even stuck on skin tones, because if you want to hide something from a Negro, you put it in a book. None of us was going to read this. But you see it now, right? You can't unsee it. In addition, it is recognized that categories of the race item include racial and national origin or sociocultural groups. People may choose to report more than one race, may choose. So it's not definitive, it's not set. You can choose to report more than one race, it's not required, to indicate their racial mixture, right? Such as American Indian and white, right? You can mix those two things together. Oh, like the Costa system. Okay. People who identify their origin, not race, origin, as Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish, may be of any race. Why not just add a brown category then? If we're going off a social definition, I mean, we as a society have been very comfortable with using the terms Black and brown. Why is not added? It would take away from the white category. You lose power. There's power in numbers. There's power in the facade of opportunity. I'll let y'all read through the rest of this later. Hispanic origin. Hispanic origin can be viewed as the heritage, nationality, lineage, or country of birth of the person or the person's parents or ancestors before arriving in the United States. So Central and South America is the only place in the world anybody can be from. Somebody tell me why this is a thing. Why do you think this is a thing?
Why is what a thing?
The only place that you can be from legally is Hispanic Latino origin from Central and South America. They're the only things that's ever listed as ethnicity.
The only reason I could think of is the one that you already stated, just that way they can include them as white.
That's it, right? Spain was a primary colonizer. The US knows that. The US can't be like, well, we're gonna colonize Spain. Yeah, the fuck right, I wish you would. Spain's not having that. Are you kidding me? We had to buy some of this land off of them. They're not just gonna be like, yeah, you can lesser us now. Come on, no, that's not happening. So you can be from here because this is the other primary source of colonization. That's it. They don't care where else you're from. It doesn't matter. So ancestry, that's your roots, that's your heritage, but we don't count ancestry like that in the Census Bureau because we've already covered that base over here with Hispanic origin. That's enough. We don't need more information than that. Foreign born. Well, of course, that's important, right? Even though that should be covered here, right? And here, it should be covered there, right? We just want to make sure we know who belongs and who doesn't, right? We like our boxes. Does it make sense so far? Everybody following?
Yeah.
Anybody pissed off?
A little bit.
Good. Doing my
I'd be
job.
lying if I said I wasn't.
Excellent. So let's look at visualizing America's population by race. Somebody tell me what's the first thing you see in here that is incorrect.
60% white.
60% white. Is that incorrect?
Didn't you just say Hispanic is not race, but it says visualizing by race, right? Or visualizing by race right here.
How does that work then?
However they
I
want
see
it
this
to
type
work.
of data all the time. How's that work?
not a fixed definition.
People can move things around as they see fit. Just like some of those laws out there. You ever got pulled over for something and you're like, that's a thing that I can get pulled over for? I got a ticket one time for, you know, those license plate covers? Like the tinted license plate covers. They sell tinted license plate covers at the auto parts stores, right? Yeah, I got pulled over for that. They said that I had fictitious plates.
Okay.
And they sell them at the auto.
And they sell them at the auto parts store. That's where I bought it. So same thing is going on here, right? They set up ideas, but then we allow those ideas to be distorted in ways that help our image, right? But we can't say that there's no people of Hispanic descent here, right? And for the record, I hate that word. I just don't have anything else to really use right now that encompasses what I need to say. So that's the only reason I'm using these terms Hispanic and Latino here. Otherwise, I really don't like them. For anybody who's interested in that, check out my colleague's lecture that I posted on bands. So we can't say that there's none of y'all here because we're gonna have a little bit of an uproar. So who makes up this 18.5% then? Who is this? What do y'all think?
Is it people that might fall under other categories that they're trying to distract from?
Pretty much. Usually folks who are darker skinned or have more melanin, right? Usually folks who are not adverse to not identifying as white, right? Because folks do tend to identify as white more often, because it's really just, what else are you going to identify as? I mean, we've been taught about skin tones all our lives, so it's the only thing that makes sense to most people. But then there's also the stereotypes that go along with Blackness, with other types of identifications and categories. And who wants that? Who wants to be categorized as lazy and useless and dumb? Who wants to be categorized like that? Well, apparently 18.5% of people, right? That's what it amounts to essentially. So these are the others. These are the other white folks. That's all that is. It's just in the other category. This multiple races down here. Now, we already saw that this is an option, right? You don't have to identify as multiple races. That means that this shit ain't real. This isn't real. You can't be multiple races because it's not even existent as a legal category. It's just an option for you to select if you feel like self-identifying is more than one thing. But at the end of the day, whatever that primary thing is, that's what you're going to be connected to. That's what you're going to be connected to at all times. If you're mixed with white and Asian, right? What are you identifying as? Asian. Especially if you have more Asiatic features, because that's what we've been taught to do. Even though we know white people are going to have more advantage, they're going to have more access to better loan rates and housing markets and all these different things, right? We've been taught the watered down version of race, which is aesthetic, and that's what you're going to categorize yourself as and get all the associated stereotypes with it. So this 12.2% Black, houseway. Y'all seen all them boats that came over here? And it's only 12. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's literally impossible. Let's look at your school, because I love doing this. Let's look at Dominguez. So Dominguez has campus-wide ethnicity listed here. What's the first thing you notice about this?
It doesn't say race.
It doesn't say race.
As the campus-wide, it would have said like race / ethnicity, but then it says 2 or more races in the category.
Which makes all this data inaccurate.
Exactly.
Most of these are not legally ethnicities. I just showed it to you from the US Census Bureau, from the horse's mouth. These aren't ethnicities. These are races. These are races. This isn't even necessary. It's not necessary. It's just something else to divide things. Legally, you saw it from them, right? This is not a race. But they use you as pawns. They use y'all as pawns. If they say, this is how many Hispanic and Latino people we have on our campus, it makes us look pretty damn diverse, right? And then we've got less than this now. I think it's closer to 12% actually, Black students, which has been on a decline at Dominguez. When I went to Dominguez, it was about 35% Black. And I graduated in 2010. So that's just to show you how fast things have gone downhill since then. We're about 12% African American now on campus. Fun fact for you, and then 10.9% white students. Keep that one in mind. Fun fact for you, the CSUs are required to have a ratio of representation. So the number of faculty or the percentage of faculty that you have is supposed to be reflected or is supposed to be a ratio, like a 1-to-1 ratio of the student population. So why we got so many more white professors than we got from Central and South America? And we do have probably about 12% Black instructors on campus. Like they were not gonna go past the percentage. That 1-to-1, they was like, this is it, this is cap.
Is it because of the flexibility with which the terms Hispanic and white can be applied?
Exactly. Legally, they don't have to hire y'all because all of this right here, this 60.3 and this 10.9%, legally they can call all of that white.
Professor,
Mhm.
wasn't there an act that was created to give, I guess, more opportunity to minorities in California? Or am I mistaken?
Affirmative action?
Yes.
It's a farce.
Doesn't that help white women?
It has historically helped white women more than it's helped anyone. Because again, if we're looking at the terms minority, right, minority and majority, it's not about numbers, it's about power and control and domination. Well, white people still want to maintain power and control and domination. So how do you do that? You find a bill that you have a loophole to that you can use to support your own people, even though you don't really want to. I mean, look at the women's suffrage movement. It's not like they were really into white women either. Like the white men was not really feeling white women either. But white women also still feel like they are higher than in the social hierarchy, which is true. So when you get laws like affirmative action, that's all they just help the little pieces of the top that are trying to get at the top. That's it. And I can say this definitively because I do have a master's of public administration and a master's of public policy, in case anybody was wondering where all of this is coming from. I literally have studied these things. So here is student enrollment from fall 2009 to 2013. And I wanted to show you this so that you could see what this decline looks like. So see here, we've got these numbers here, 20.3, 56.3. We move down here. Oh, it's getting down a little bit. And we got 20 and 50%, right? Coming down here. Oh, we got a little surplus in the Blacks, but ooh, look at that, 47%. How does this happen in an institution that is literally surrounded by people of color? We're going up a little bit here. So Dominguez used to do a lot of really intentional work too in the community for increasing its Black student population. Where'd all that work go? Where's it at? We don't do that no more. Instead, they have meetings where they say things like, the quality of our students has gone up tremendously, in so many words. And then when we ask, well, what does that mean? Because we're looking at these numbers. They look at us like we're crazy. Somebody on campus actually refers to me as like the Malcolm X of the department, by the way. So if y'all ever hear anything crazy about me on campus, it's probably true. So y'all see these numbers, right? We see how this is moving on, right? It was moving up a little bit, right? Still down. This is from last year. This looks like a little like a flyer or some shit that they was giving out, right? To try to show people how amazing and diverse Dominguez is. So all of a sudden, we've got 64% Latina slash O, right? Because now we're progressive too. We have to be more progressive with our language. Not that this does anything, but we gotta look like it, you know, fake it till you make it. How the fuck we dropped down to 10? Damn, I was wrong. 10.5. How we dropped to 10.57% Black students?
Aren't a lot of the numbers coming from some Black people who want to identify as Latina because of like, I don't know.
So the same social stigmas, basically, right? It got popular to identify as someone from Central and South America or someone from the Caribbean. It got really fucking popular, right? There was a long time when people were like, oh, I'm not just Black, I'm mixed with this, that, and the other, right? And we'll start naming all the little fucking things that we got going on in our ancestry. Like any of that matters. What it does is it pads the numbers. It makes it look like something is not. It looks diverse, is not diverse. It's fake diverse. Why is it 7.96% Asian people at Dominguez? Well, effectively, if you look at the communities around us, there's not a lot of Asian populations directly around Dominguez like that. Like most of them are in the other areas, LA, Long Beach, over there, right? But the other thing is, stereotypically, why would they come here? We go here because, I mean, it's basically like the university version of our high schools. To be honest, that's one of the reasons I went here. The other reason was because it was 80% women at the time. But for right now, right? That's what it is. This is the people of color school. And what that means to the rest of the world is ghetto. It means you're not going to get a good education. It means that you're going to be behind as soon as you graduate, if you even do, because they're not going to protect you to try to get you through graduation either. Retention rates are just fucking terrible here. We'll talk about that another day. So that's what all this is. This is propaganda to make students or potential students feel comfortable with coming here. How you, like, I mean, yeah, out of 727, but like best colleges for your money, that has nothing to do with what you're getting out of it. That just means that we're cheap. That's all that means.
There's a question.
Go ahead. What's the question?
It's in the chat. It's like, okay, so if you had to decide what should this look like instead, like according to you, what would the graph look like?
I wouldn't have this graph in the first place. This graph is dumb. It doesn't make any sense. We should instead be focusing on the quality of building our communities, right? Instead, we're preoccupied with this is how many of this person we have, and this is how many of this person we have, and this is how many of this person we have, and it's divisive. It serves us no good. I wouldn't put this shit out there. This is just another of the same thing, fall 2006 to fall 2015. So you can see these numbers.
But like, doesn't it make sense though? Like, that it's like this? Because like, a lot of the times, we can't get past like stereotypes. Like, that's why I brought it up before, which is like, when you come here, a lot of people don't care about this. They just like see how you look and then they call you whatever they think you are. Like, we can't even get past the fact that like, oh, we shouldn't worry about differences. There is differences, like, and people notice that and they act on those things. And we see, because of those differences, we have like a lot of different experiences and stuff like that. So those experiences like literally define who we are. They become a part of our identity. So then we jump on those experiences to talk about who we are. And then it's just like, I don't know if we can ever be like, well, why does it matter what percentage of this you are? Why does it matter? I feel like in a country like this, it will. Like, a lot of things happen because it like is important to people at the top, because it's important to the government. Like, of course they wanna be like, okay, but y'all are black though, so we gotta treat y'all different. Like, y'all are black. This is the percentage. Like, so I don't know how we ever supposed to be able to change that. Like, I don't know.
The long and short answer is normalization, right? We have to relearn a lot of things and relearn a lot of things. We have to take the time to actually go through, especially these concepts that we think are so simple, concepts that we think we understand, and break them down like this, right? When we normalize a response of saying, why does it matter? At some point, people are going to stop asking. If you're not going to give them an answer, they're not going to keep asking you the same question. But we give answers every time they ask. We feed into it, right? We keep this system alive. So yes, a lot of these things are very much so intricately connected to our experiences, especially oppressive experiences. But the thing we know about the root of problems is that if we handle the root, right, we won't have the fruit. We have to handle the root, right? This is the root. We have to start here and say that this is inaccurate, right? The information that they're putting, look at the website, college factual. Where's the facts at? Where are they? I can't see them. Somebody tell me where the facts is at, right? But these are things that we're passing off as real that we are also then accepting as real and moving forward in that way. We're perpetuating a lot of these stereotypes unknowingly for that reason. All right, I'm gonna move into gender really quickly. Actually, you know what? I feel like this was a lot of information. So I'm going to, what do y'all want to do? We can stay for another 15 and talk about gender, or I can add gender to next week. What would you prefer?
Stay.
I can stay for another 15.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna talk about the gender unicorn real quick. This is one of my favorite tools to use to discuss gender because of the way that it breaks it down in the same way that I've been talking about race. So gender is constructed of a lot of different things. It is not about just what you're born with. It's not. This is actually one of the most minuscule pieces of it, right? This is one of the most minuscule pieces of it. So let's talk about gender identity first. Gender identity is what you think about yourself, how you think about yourself, how you want to exist in the world, how you choose to show up, right? How you consider your own safety and your own needs, right? That Maslow's hierarchy of needs, very, very thought-based gender identity. So these, imagine these like they're movable, right? So you can slide this over here. Maybe you're a little bit more feminine than you are masculine, but you got a little mask in you, so you're gonna go ahead and slide this over a little bit, right? Everybody's going to be different on where they place themselves, right? So there are people who don't identify with any of these, and so they're going to be kind of in this other category down here, right? But that doesn't mean that they can't exist with any of these other things, right? That doesn't mean you can't exist with some feminine qualities or some masculine qualities and show up in the world and exist that way. Absolutely. So just the idea of having male and female listed as gender is incorrect. Let's talk about gender expression. Does that make sense, first of all? Gender identity, make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So gender expression is the external, right? Ugh, I keep pressing shit. Gender expression is the external. So this is, I've thought about who I am, I've thought about my needs, and now this is how I'm going to externally tell the world who I am and how I am. Does gender identity and gender expression always have to match?
No.
No, they don't. They don't, right? Give me an example. When does your gender identity and gender expression not match? Here's an easy one for female-bodied people who don't want to be catcalled at the gym. You might dress more masculine at the gym.
Oh, okay, Professor, I have a story.
See?
Okay, I just thought of it when you said that. So when I was on campus, I would take the train home, and I noticed when I would dress normally, so many guys would catcall me and walk up to me, ask for my number, and just try to talk to me. And sometimes that would make me feel uncomfortable. So when I started going to the train station, I started overdressing, big hoodies, baggy sweatpants, tennis shoes, and I noticed that a lot of people wouldn't approach me when I dressed like that.
Right, right. Go back to this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So you made a decision, a conscious decision, right, in the things that you put on based off of how you feel and the things that you've determined that you need. So you may have determined one day that I feel like wearing something nice. I want to feel presentable, like to myself. I want to look good today, right? But then the reaction that other people get, because remember that we value everybody else before we value ourselves, because the same has to come after everybody else. We're dressing for them at the end of the day, right? We're dressing for everybody else's comfort and security at the end of the day. So when you decide to put something else on because of other people's responses and the anticipation of other people's reactions, right? That's still very much so part of that gender expression, right? Because you're choosing how you're showing up in the world, right? Whether you're going to dress more masculine, whether you're going to dress more feminine, whether you're going to dress more neutrally or more less binary, right? It could be as a measure of securing your own body. It could be on a search for sex. It could be to get some resources or employment, right? Can you imagine if I showed up like this to a job interview? Am I getting that job? Probably not. Does that change the quality of anything that I've said or anything that I do? So why we care about it so much? Because we care more about the external. We care more about other people. A lot of the time, our gender identity is influenced by other people. So our thoughts are not even our own thoughts, right? We're thinking about what we're putting on and how we're going to present ourselves based off of what other people are already thinking and saying and feeling about us, and what we're anticipating other people to think and say and feel about us, right? So trans folks, for example, trans folks have this issue all the time, where their gender expression and their gender identity may not match for safety reasons more than anything, right? Imagine being someone who feels like they are this completely different person, right? Who knows themselves and knows that they are this completely different person from whatever the doctor said when they were born. And so they want to express themselves in that way. Y'all see the transphobia out there in the world. Y'all been on the shade room. I don't got to tell you, you see it for yourselves. This is how that manifests. So let's talk about attraction real quick. So there's, on a very basic level, there's two basic functions of attraction. There's a physical function and then there's emotional function. So the physical function goes back down here, right? The physical function of attraction, the things that we need, right? The things that we want. I mean, I hope that we want other people who are breathing, right? I mean, there's a disorder for that, but like, these are the basics, okay? Emotional attraction is deeper than that, right? So the emotional attraction is going to go here. Well, emotional attraction is then not about us. Socially, it's not about us. Emotional attraction is, this is who you're supposed to be attracted to, and here's why, right? These are the things that you're supposed to feel, not because it has anything to do with you, right? Yeah, you started these boundaries, but you didn't complete them for yourself because you needed somebody else to do it for you and with you. And that's how we start conflating these ideas. And again, ending up in things that we're supposed to be in, or we're not supposed to be in, or conflating a lot of these ideas. And also, when we get to this, right, the lyricism in hip hop. The lyricism in hip hop that often tends to be misogynistic or hypermasculine, all of that, directly related to these ideas of gender, particularly to the ideas of attraction. So physical attraction, right? It's possible to be physically attracted to somebody and not emotionally attracted to them. It's not required for you to be emotionally attracted to anyone. It's not required for you to be physically attracted to someone that you're emotionally attracted to, right? Those things are completely different categories. They can exist individually, function very well by themselves, right? Great example, one night stands. One night stands is a prime example of physical attraction only. You can have a one night stand because you don't build that emotional attraction. You're there for one thing and one thing only. You get that one thing and you get out of there. Make sense? Somebody can walk past you and you're like, that is a really fucking attractive person. How many of y'all have said this to me already this semester, right? That doesn't mean anything is moving past that, right? A lot of compliments come in the physical attraction realm that we reject because we associated physical attraction with emotional attraction. We're like, oh, you're giving me a compliment, you must want something else. Wait a minute, hold on. Heart's not ready for this. Like, we don't know how to take it. It's a whole mess, right? When we start to understand attraction in these ways a little bit better and process them for ourselves more, right? We're gonna do so much more healing than we ever imagined possible. Like, I'm really impressed with the way that y'all been giving each other and taking compliments from each other. That's not normal, or at least it hasn't been normal, right? Look how many of the male-bodied people in this classroom have not, or have been very strategic with the way that they have given compliments. We know that's by design. Nobody's trying to get caught up in nothing because we know that that is also a social stigma. So men are in this weird position where they can't really be emotional, or they're not supposed to really be emotional. They're only really supposed to have that physical attraction, but are also supposed to be like supportive and good parents and great partners and all that shit, right? Everything's supposed to be amazing. With no emotions? How? Does this make sense? It's a lot
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's sad that physical and emotional are, like, I guess, intertwined with men, because in my health class we learned that the leading cause, and I brought this up in band too, that male suicide rates are one of the highest causes, and I'm just like, it's, I guess, just the stigma that men can't speak about their emotions. Like, it's just not normal. Like, it's not normalized.
It's not just the stigma though, it's the impact of that stigma. It's the impact of that stigma. So imagine being a cup and somebody's pouring shit into that cup with nowhere for anything to go, right? You just have to keep holding on to it, holding on to it, holding on to it. At some point, you're going to overflow. You don't have a choice. You're going to overflow at some point, right? Well, for men, if you're overflowing, but you can't talk to nobody because that's emotional, we can't do that, right? That's weak shit. What do? You kill yourself. It's easier. Literally, it's easier. It's emotionally, it's socially, it's politically easier. It's sad as fuck, and it's something that we have to address, but we can't if we're not willing to look at gender beyond the binary. This is a new version that I haven't really gotten a full chance to look at yet, but I'm really excited about this flying gender unicorn. So I'm gonna add this to y'all information so that you can check this out. I like that they divvied out the chromosomes here and the hormone levels, because all of those things are also very important. Genitals at birth are usually what's used to determine gender assigned at birth, right? So if somebody refers to me as AFAB, right? AFAB, AFAB, that means assigned female at birth. So if anybody hears something like that, that's all that means. How do you determine that? Via genitals. Well, genitals are all gonna look different anyway when you're born. Makes sense. So I like this chart already. I really like this chart already. I also like that they added sexuality in here, because sexuality is not the same thing as attraction. Sexuality is not the same thing as just the sex you engage in. There's so much more to it. But again, I haven't had a chance to really fully digest this one yet. So I'm gonna add it for y'all to do. We're gonna kind of look at this together throughout the semester. Sound dope?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna end with this little video here. And this is KRS-One, who is one of hip hop's legends, right? This is a community leader who is going to give you a little bit of a breakdown on how hip hop is related to most of the stuff we just talked about. And from that, you will then be able to think about some of these other concepts and relate that a little bit more too. So it'll make more sense as to why we did it this way rather than just jump on in. Fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I have to stop sharing because it will delete my video for copyright reasons. So I will just play it for y'all and then I will add the link afterwards. But I'm gonna stay on the live and I'm gonna stay on the Zoom call in case anybody wants to chat about it afterwards or anything like that. I got time today, so let me know, okay? So I'll stop sharing now. And actually, before we stop sharing, let's just affirmations real quick for anybody who's watching this video after we get done. Share some affirmations with folks. How are we feeling? How are we doing? How are we getting through this weekend and next week? What do y'all need? What do you need to hear today?
It's Friday. You work through the week. The weekend is coming. Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. I like that. Okay. What else? What are we leaving for our peers?
Make sure y'all get sleep, okay? My sleep schedule is so messed up, y'all. Get a lot of sleep.
Sleep, right? Down here at the bottom, we need that.
I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure y'all breathing, eating food, staying hydrated, sleeping, homeostasis and excretion. Go to the bathroom. Don't blow up your bladder.
Just listen to the Charmin commercials and sing along.
Yeah, exactly.
Charmin be hitting the commercials on Pandora. They funny. Anybody else sing along with the commercials on Pandora?
They're catchy.
They're catchy, right?
I don't use Spotify.
Man, advertisements will get you every time. If they real good at their job. If I said call JG Wentworth.
877 cash now.
877 cash now.
Yeah, they work. They do what they're supposed to do. All right. Well, thank you all for doing that. Thank you for sharing some words of encouragement and advice for your peers. Please make sure that you follow the advice that you are also giving. You don't have to be perfect at it. You just have to keep practicing at it. Every day is going to be different, but you have to take one at a time. Okay? Mind y'all self-care, first and foremost. It's the most critical thing that you can do for any sort of healing. All right, so we have stopped sharing. Let me stop recording.